Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is from the house of Areej le Dore, and this is called Malik al Taif. This is a really strong rose fragrance, rose-based fragrance. I'll read you the little card. I have the dry down here and I just sprayed it on my hand here. So the top notes read Royal Taif Rose with Indian Rose. Heart notes include Indian Oud, Saffron and Deer Musk Absolute, with the base notes being Mysore Sandalwood, Amber Resin and Siam Benzoin. So when I first spray this one, rose is the first thing you get. Full on intense rose. It's quite pungent, it's strong, it's hugely rosy. This particular rose, I've never smelled Taif rose by itself, but the impression that I get from this, the way it smells to me, is it seems to have what I would describe as a lemony top note. It has a fresh quality to the rose that might remind you a little bit of citruses, in particular a kind of a lemon feeling. It's fresh, it's bright, it's intensely rosy. And the rose, though, I think it's my association with citrusy lemony notes and this kind of cleanness that the rose has. It does remind me of, and this is going to sound bad, I almost don't want to say it, but I have to be honest with what it reminds me of. It does remind me a little bit of something like an aerosol rose-scented room spray, or even a polish. Like I have a polish to clean this bookcase with the wood to make it sparkle. There's elements that remind me a little bit of polish, a little bit of a rose-scented spray, or yeah, it has those nuances of that vibe, and I think it's the way that the rose is lemony and fresh that is making me have those kind of triggers, memories of certain things like that. But I don't mean to say it as a negative. I don't, it smells good. It's just, it does remind me a little bit of those nuances, which I feel like I have to say. And I know the rose is top quality, but it does remind me of those things. So underneath the rose, there is an oud note, and I'm not an expert with Indian oud at all, but from what I have experienced, they tend to feel like the wood is over fermented, and you get these more animalic, more acquired taste nuances coming through the wood. This one does have a dark, slightly animalic edge. It doesn't smell too crazy and saying that I don't like it, but there is something that reminds me of what I would describe as goat's hair. If you've ever stroked a goat or a horse, you get that kind of, you know exactly what I'm saying because it's a very unique smell. It has that kind of nuance to it that reminds me of goat's hair, twang, a little bit of a barnyard-esque feeling to the oud. But it's not overwhelming that it puts me off, but it is kind of noticeable. There is hints of saffron in the opening, and it just makes the opening quite pungent and strong and a bit of a punch in the face, actually. It's not, I wouldn't say it's even spicy as a fragrance, but I just feel the overall impact of the opening is quite what I would use the word as pungent. It's strong. You can tell this is a really high concentration of rose. You can tell the perfume is very concentrated. It just has a punch when you first apply it. If you're worried about the oud, it tones down very quickly. After 15-20 minutes, those kind of more skanky, darker, more acquired taste notes disappear, and it becomes very mellow and very smooth and a lot less noticeable. The rose softens out as well and becomes less pungent, and you start to notice this creaminess coming up in the mid of the fragrance, where everything just softens and mellows, and you get this creamy kind of Mysore sandalwood mixed with this Siberian deer musk. And the way it comes across, I feel like the way the musk, I don't smell the musk directly, you just get a sense of it. It's like a softness, but the way that it mixes with the sandalwood and the rose almost makes the fragrance feel creamy, like a lotion. It reminds me of a beautiful scented moisturizer, like a kind of a bright rose moisturizer cream, and really, really pretty though. Very, very smooth. The heart of it and the base is my favourite part. The top notes, like I say, the top notes have this lemony freshness thing that reminds me of sprays and polish. that disappears after only 10-15 minutes, and I don't get that vibe anymore. It's like a top note, just to make that clear. The mid is this beautiful, almost creamy smooth, rose-scented musky softness that just comes across very elegant, very smooth, very tasteful. Really, really pretty, very beautiful. The dry down I start to lose the rose, and the dry down feels to me like probably just a combination of the sandalwood and the musk, and it just gives this, I still have the dry down on here after 2 weeks being on the card, and it still reminds me of sandalwood and musk. You get this beautiful creamy mellow softness, but there's just beautiful musky creamy softness in the dry down from this sandalwood and musk, and that's kind of what you're left with before it tails out. Very, very beautiful, and that's my favourite part of the fragrance. The perfume contains 4 natural varieties of oud oil, including ones from Cambodia, Laos and India. It describes the Cambodian oud as being a very sweet oud, and it describes the Lao oud as being quite animalic, and as well as describing there being 2 Indian varieties of oud, and the profiles of which being smoky and leathery. It is also referenced that there is a particular synthetic fixative used in the blend as well as the naturals, and it's estimated that there's around 40% of pure rose oil in the formula, which is really high. Really, really high. I guess the subtle sweetness that I'm smelling could be coming from the profile of the Cambodian oud. I've no idea without smelling the oud by itself, but there is a subtle sweetness to the scent, which I'm going to either associate it with the Cambodian oud, which is described by Russian Adam as being a very sweet oud, and maybe even a little bit of the cyan benzoin or the resins in here also probably adding a little bit to the warm sweetness. The rose itself does feel on the lighter, fresh, pinky hue of rose. It's not a deep, dark red rose. It does feel and come across like the flower looks. This particular rose is more of a pink kind of hue, and you do get that kind of soft pink petal feeling to the scent that's very, very pretty. In terms of performance for this one, I'm getting around 6 hours, 6 to 7. You can smell it faintly a long time after that. The muskiness stays on your skin for a long time, but what I would class as usable longevity is where it's kind of more noticeable is around 6 hours, with an hour of a soft projection. This doesn't feel like it projects too much on my skin. It's quite close. When I first apply it, it's only projecting so far, and then after the first hour it's quite intimate. It's a close personal scent. It's not going to knock people out. I would imagine if you drenched yourself in it then it would be stronger, but I don't overspray personally. And I would also imagine if you spray it on clothes it will last longer too. It definitely will. If you spray it on a t-shirt or a scarf it will last for weeks. No exaggeration. So great fragrance. I'm slightly put off by the top notes. Like I say, the lemony fresh top note of the rose reminds me of those kind of aerosol sprays or polish or cleaning things. It has a vibe of that in the opening which I'm not keen on, and I'm not keen on the more animalic oud. That's not my personal taste. I'm not tuned into appreciating that fully yet. I prefer, I don't know, easier going ouds. I'm not, a huge fan of the barnyard-esque oud, but like I say, that also tones down quite quickly. After 15-20 minutes at most, you're into this beautiful heart that's very, very pretty, of this musky, creamy, sandalwood, musky rosiness that's quite bright and still kind of fresh in a way, actually. So the top notes I'm not a fan of. Heart and the base, primo, excellent stuff. If you like rose, definitely check it out. I think there's not many perfumes in the world that are going to contain this level of quality rose at this level of concentration. This, I can tell it's an expensive perfume to make, and yeah, it's a high concentration of rose, with some great natural materials. So if you're a rose fan, definitely give it a try if you can. I don't really recommend blind buying bottles. That feels very risky to me. I don't like the feeling of that, but do what you want with your own money. If you can get hold of a sample, obviously check them out first. That way it's a lot better. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you again next time with another one. Take care, everyone.